Hey there maniacs, another episode from Iron Horde. This time I'm going to speak about 5 of my favorite thrash metal albums. Stay tuned. Welcome back fellow metal maniacs, another episode of Iron Horde here, and this time, as I told you in the introduction, I'm going to speak about 5 of my favorite thrash metal albums. First of all, thanks again for the likes and subscriptions. From the last 2 videos, we are really getting positive feedback, and obviously that really makes us happy. So if you're new here, check the like button, subscribe, and keep following, because there is a lot to come yet. I have a very long list of subjects to tackle in the next videos in the coming weeks and months. But now we turn our attention to my favorite thrash metal albums. Obviously, this is a list which can change with time, but more or less these 5 albums that I'm going to mention are a staple in my choices with regards to thrash metal albums. So without further ado, let's go and find out which are the albums that made the grade, basically. So album number 5, here it is. Sabbat, A History of a Time to Come. An English band, a band from the UK not really renowned for its thrash metal scene, but boy, those bands who really made the grade are really good. Apart from Sabbat, there's Onslaught, which are worth a mention, Death Wish, 2 other bands which are really good. Both of them could have made this list, but obviously I opted for this album right here. That's one of the first album I ever bought, and I didn't know about the band before buying this album. Just it grabbed my attention because of the word Sabbath. I'm a big Black Sabbath fan, and when I saw Sabbath, I said, let's see, this might either be very good or absolute rubbish, and this is more than good. This is excellent, great thrash with a technical touch to it, and the Sneap on guitars, now renowned from Judas Priest, but he was renowned even before as a great producer of bands, amongst others, as Accept. Also played guitars with Hell. Hell is a band from the new wave of British heavy metal, and who called it quits some time ago, and the Sneap took care to reviving basically the band back together and get it up and running. Hell is a very good band, so if you don't know about them, go check them out ASAP. But we return to this album. Martin Valkyr on vocals, very raspy vocals, like a mix of Kronos and Jeff Becerra from Possessed, packed with riffs like all the albums that I'm going to mention today. So great production, especially the bass lines there. You can really hear the bass. Sometimes with thrash metal productions, the bass is a little bit cut out, basically, but here it's given the due importance, and that really adds to the feel of this album. The lyrics are very well put, agree or not agree with them, but they are really thought-provoking. So all in all, a great album, and one which shouldn't be missed by all thrash metal maniacs. So Sabbath, A History of a Time to Come, position number 5. Now we go back to position number 4, and this is a really famous album and a really famous band, but I decided to include them as well because they are a staple in thrash metal, and they deserve to be listed obviously as well. And I'm speaking about none other than Slayer. Alright, and this is my favorite album of theirs, Show No Mercy. It's a great cover album, an iconic cover album, packed with riffs. This is one of those albums that shows how Slayer was greatly influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal again, because their sound over here is like a new wave of British heavy metal band added with plenty of violence, youthful energy, aggressivity, and you get this album right here, which is, as far as I'm concerned, one of my favorite thrash metal albums. Obviously, the duo of Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King is legendary. Considering this is their first album, so you have to take that into consideration. But the production here is not so good, but it still is enough to give enough space for the instruments to develop and create a raw, very violent kind of feel, yet good enough to be listened to, basically, because the balance in this kind of extreme metal is the most important thing, is the most difficult thing to achieve. So nothing more to add to this album. I mean, most of you will surely know all the tracks by heart. Position number 4, Slayer, Show No Mercy. So we have arrived to position number 3, and on the podium, on the lowest end of the podium, we have Sepultura, Beneath the Remains. When I was a young teenager, if you asked me what's your favorite thrash metal album, I would always choose this album here. Obviously, by then my knowledge of music in general, but obviously especially my favorite genres such as thrash metal have widened considerably, and I have gone for other albums before this, but it still retains a very respectable position, because this is, I think, groundbreaking album, especially for South America, considering that Sepultura are from Brazil. This was the first major deal for Sepultura with Road Racer Records, which then turned into Roadrunner Records. But anyway, I think it's the peak of the Cavalera brothers here. It's insane, the energy and the punch in their guitars and the production as well, retaining clarity but yet keeping the violence, the aggressivity, because this is a style of music that, and I will repeat myself in most of these reviews considering these albums, that certain rawness, the violent aspect, the aggressivity is essential. If you lose that, if you soften the music, it will not work out, it will not remain as thrash metal. So that said, here I think Mass Hypnosis would be my favorite track on this album, and even in herself, but I'd go for Mass Hypnosis. It's interesting to say that on the third track there are backing vocals by John Tarty from Obituary and Kelly Schaefer from Atheist, possibly because they were on the same label as well, but it was a new discovery for me. Nothing else to add, basically. I think from the first note of this album till the last one, it's an onslaught of thrash metal, it's an onslaught of riffs, of violence, of aggressivity, and that's what you need in this kind of album, that keeps your attention, that there are changing tempos, and this album is packed with those, so surely not to be missed by any thrash metal aficionado as well. So it's interesting also that this album cover was not the one that was going to be used. Actually, the one that was going to be used ended up being used by the label for Obituary's album Cause of Death. So that's an interesting fact as well. So album number 3, Sepultura, Beneath the Remains. We have arrived to the second album, one of the most popular albums in heavy metal in general this time round, and without further ado, this is the album right here, Metallica, Ride the Lightning. Possibly the album that I have listened to most with regards to thrash metal. What is there else to say about this album? I think it's the peak of Metallica. It retains the aggressivity of Kill 'Em All, but it shows that Metallica here have mastered the build-up, the composition of the tracks. So it has a bit of maturity from that side. It's not all out guns blazing like Kill 'Em All, but it has the bit of maturity that is seen after also in Master of Puppets. But Master of Puppets was a bit more controlled, kind of. This has still retains that aggressivity of Kill 'Em All. So it's the perfect balance, and it's undoubtedly, for me, their best album. Until And Justice for All, Metallica were great. Obviously, my opinion is that from then onwards they really sold out to selling more albums rather than creating great albums. And but there's a lot to say about Metallica. Maybe that will be another video for future videos that I can speak, and there's a lot to say. I can speak a whole video speaking about Metallica and their trajectory from a thrash metal band to basically slowly to just a rock band. And but Metallica is a band that I have grown up with, so it really retains a special place in my heart. But it really saddens me how they ended up being trading basically their love for heavy metal to something else, just for getting more money, more followers, more fans, more whatever. I mean, it saddens me there that they have diverted so much from their initial route. But anyway, iconic album. Flemming Rasmussen as a producer, great producer also from early Rainbow albums and also later albums such as Artillery, Blind Guardian, and others. So this is Metallica in its perfect form. So there it is, Ride the Lightning from Metallica, position number 2. So we have arrived to the first place in this list, and what will be a surprise for most those who know me will not be that surprise, but to the majority this might be actually a surprise. But I have no doubt this first place has not changed for quite some time, and I don't think it will change in the near future anyway. So here it is, Infernal Majesty, None Shall Defy. What an amazing album. Canadian, released in 1987 again by Roadrunner Records. I cannot understand how this album remains so underrated basically, because it's not really unknown, but it's quite tempo changes, riffs, solos. The vocals it's like a demon from hell basically, because Chris Bailey here really shines on this album, really grabs the music and takes it to another level with regards to violence, with regards to aggressiveness, and I like the band's image on stage, and I appreciate that they have kept that image throughout the years and not really changed it. Like for example, it's the same image as like early Slayer, but obviously Slayer to a certain extent, even though the musicians have changed, but they changed their style on the stage. And whereas if you go and watch Infernal Majesty nowadays or even recently, their image on stage is the same, and I really appreciate that. The title track, None Shall Defy, is legendary. I mean, if you have never listened to this album, go find that track and do yourself a favor and listen to it. Even here we have a duo of guitarists which really shines, like Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King, and Steve Terrer and Kenny Holman really shine on this album. So sometimes I can't understand how that duo with that band really made a living out of this music, and another duo like this, which were quite as good, if not better, didn't make it. So, but anyway, I think that's life. But again, that's why you shouldn't judge with the popularity of the band, because you will be missing out on albums like this. Cover artwork is not up to standard as far as I'm concerned, although it has become a bit of an iconic image within the thrash metal scene. But considering everything, I mean, the artwork is really not that important, because the music really kills it, and considering the diversity on each track in this album, it's amazing how can a band release such a great album. So the proof of the pie is in eating, they say. So go listen to this album, and I'm sure you will find something you like. This is an album that also has left a legacy in the death thrash metal scene, because it kind of paved the way to that kind of sound that has become more popular throughout the years. Amazing album, really frantic, aggressive thrash metal. This is at the peak of anything related to thrash metal as far as I'm concerned. But maybe not everyone does agree, but I think we should agree that this is one of the best thrash metal albums ever made. Obviously the number one spot is very much subjective, but in that group of elite albums, I think this album has a spot nonetheless. So that is all we had for today. Those are the 5 albums which I chose for this video. hopefully some of you have discovered new bands and new albums. That is why we do these videos, is because it's informative and it gives you a platform to get to know new bands and new albums. If you knew about all the bands, if you like all these bands, then I can tell you that you have great taste. Hopefully we will see you in our next videos. Like the video, subscribe. It gives us a big incentive to continue doing this hobby basically. And I hope to see you in the future, and obviously stay tuned and see you next time.